What if the most powerful force in the universe was hiding in silence? What if everything you've ever sought, energy, clarity, peace, meaning, wasn't missing? It was just quiet? We live in a world that fears the void. We're told that emptiness is absence, that stillness is unproductive, that silence is a gap we must fill. But what if that's the lie? Because the deeper you look, the more you begin to see that emptiness is not empty. It is potential. It is origin. It is the pulse before sound, the womb before birth, the space that holds the spark. Physicists now call this hidden force the zero-point field, an ocean of pure energy that exists in all of space, even in the total absence of matter or motion. They discovered that what we once called nothing is actually everything, waiting. In the language of science, the vacuum teems with quantum fluctuation. Particles blink in and out of existence, a silent dance of potential, humming beneath reality itself. And in the language of mystics, this same space has always been called the source, Brahman, Tao, Ein Sof, the breath of God. Two lenses, one truth. There is no matter as such, said Max Planck, father of quantum theory. All matter originates and exists only by virtue of a force. We must assume behind this force the existence of a conscious and intelligent mind. That mind isn't somewhere else. It's the ground of your being, the backdrop behind every breath. It is the quiet intelligence beneath your thoughts, the silence that remains even when the noise fades. And here's the real mystery. This field, this infinite ocean of potential, responds to consciousness. It listens, it reflects, it shapes itself around your inner state. But most people never experience this, not because the field is hidden, but because they are too full to feel it, too full of noise, too full of assumptions, too full of trying. To touch the zero-point field, you don't need effort, you need emptiness, not void in the painful sense, but spaciousness in the sacred sense, a return to what you were before you became your story. The field isn't something you reach for, it's what you fall into when you finally stop reaching. So let this be the first step, not toward a destination, but back into a presence you never left, just forgot. This isn't about learning something new. It's about remembering what silence has always tried to tell you. You are already surrounded by the energy you seek. Now it's time to learn how to feel it again. In 1911, something happened that quietly changed the world forever. Physicist Max Planck, considered the father of quantum theory, discovered that even in absolute zero, where no heat or movement should exist, there was still energy, not chaos, not light, but a steady hum, a low, continuous vibration, irreducible, inescapable, present in all of space. He called it zero-point energy, the energy of the vacuum. But this vacuum wasn't empty, it was pregnant with potential, and this changed everything. Quantum physicists soon confirmed, empty space is not empty, it's alive. It seethes with unseen motion, particles appearing and disappearing 1 trillion times per second, like the breath of the cosmos itself. The field is the only reality, said Albert Einstein. Matter, then, is not the foundation. It is the illusion built upon the field. David Bohm, a brilliant student of Einstein, called it the implicate order, a deeper layer of reality where everything is connected through vibration before form. In his view, what we perceive, chairs, skin, trees, thoughts, is just the explicate order, the unfolded expression of a far vaster, hidden intelligence underneath. And here's where things become spiritual. In quantum mechanics, there's something called the observer effect. Until something is observed, it doesn't exist as a fixed thing. It exists as a wave, a field of probabilities, a possibility. But the moment it's observed, the wave collapses into a particle. It becomes real. Observation shapes reality. Consciousness creates coherence, which means the zero-point field is not just a sea of potential, it's a mirror. It becomes what you're ready to receive. This is what mystics have always said in different words. In Vedanta, the world arises with the mind. In Taoism, the way reveals itself to the one who does not cling. In Hermeticism, as within, so without. In the Gospel of Thomas, split a piece of wood, and I am there. They weren't speaking metaphorically. They were describing vibrational mechanics. When your inner frequency becomes coherent, when your breath slows, your mind clears, your heart aligns, you begin to collapse possibilities into form, not through control, but through resonance. And this is the core message of the zero-point field. It is not separate from you. It's entangled with your awareness. You are not a passive observer. You are a participatory signal. When you're scattered, the field reflects distortion. When you're clear, it reflects coherence. When you're grateful, it amplifies abundance. When you're present, it delivers clarity. You are not in the universe. The universe is in you, reflected through your vibration. The question then is not whether the field is working. It always is. The question is, what signal are you sending? Long before particles were measured, before the word quantum was ever spoken, humanity had already met the zero-point field. They didn't call it vacuum fluctuation. They didn't need laboratories or particle accelerators. They simply sat in silence. They listened. They breathed. And what they found, they called spirit, source, breath, Tao, the unseen, the eternal light. Different names, one reality. In India, the sages of the Upanishads spoke of Brahman, the formless, limitless, unmanifest field that holds all of existence. Everything arises from it. Everything returns to it. And within each being, they said, lives Atman, the soul, the essence, not separate from Brahman, but a drop of the infinite. Tat Tvam Asi, you are that. This wasn't poetry, it was recognition. In China, Taoist mystics spoke of the Tao, the way. It cannot be named, they said, for the moment it's named, it's already diminished. But it flows through all things. It creates without effort. It moves without force. The Tao is the rhythm before form, the same silent order that physicists now see beneath matter. The Tao that can be spoken is not the eternal Tao. In Kabbalistic Judaism, they called it Ein Sof, the infinite, the unknowable light before creation. Not a being, but boundless beingness. They taught that the world was born not through expansion, but through contraction, a sacred withdrawal of that infinite light so that space, matter, and individuality could emerge. And in the sacred circles of the Sufis, the mystics of Islam, it was never about intellectual proof. It was about the beloved. They called the field the breath of the beloved, the divine pulse behind sound and form. When they danced, they weren't performing. They were aligning. Rumi whispered, "You are not a drop in the ocean. You are the entire ocean in a drop." In ancient Egypt, the soul was not one thing, but many. Ka, the vital life force. Ba, the personality or soul essence. Ak, the divine light body. These aspects were kept in harmony by living according to Ma'at, the principle of balance, truth, and universal resonance. The field was not theory, it was law. To fall out of vibrational alignment was to fall into chaos. Indigenous peoples across the Americas, Africa, Oceania, and Asia shared this knowing. In Polynesia, it was called mana, spiritual power that flows through all things. In Native America, the Great Spirit, the invisible wind that breathes through the land. In Aboriginal Australia, the dreaming, the timeless layer beneath time, where all beings are connected and creation never ends. They did not have formulas, but they had fire. They didn't have equations, but they had ceremony. They didn't measure the field. They remembered it. They embodied it. And through that, they aligned with it. This isn't new knowledge. This is the oldest truth we've forgotten. What we call the zero-point field is the same force they danced, sang, meditated, and surrendered into. Science has caught up, not to disprove the mystics, but to finally translate their silence into modern words. So if you've been taught that this is new, revolutionary, or futuristic, let it go. It's not new, it's eternal. You are not discovering the field. You are remembering it in the same way your ancestors did, through presence, through breath, through reverence. You wake up tired. You scroll. You reply. You chase. You try to catch your breath, but it's always half a step ahead. Somewhere inside, you wonder, why do I feel so heavy, so numb, so distant from myself? It's not because you're broken. It's not because you're lazy or failing or behind. It's because you're disconnected from the field that was meant to power you. This world teaches you how to produce, perform, and pretend. It teaches you how to make noise, gather followers, check boxes, but it never teaches you how to be still, how to listen, how to align. We were raised in systems that reward stimulation, but starve the soul. And when you are cut off from the source, no amount of sleep, no amount of success, no amount of validation can touch the ache underneath. This is the real epidemic, not a crisis of productivity, but a crisis of vibration. Your body was never designed to run on caffeine and cortisol. It was designed to run on coherence, that calm, centered clarity that arises when you're tuned into something deeper than your to-do list. The zero-point field doesn't scream, it whispers. And in a culture addicted to noise, most people never hear it. So we reach for food, phones, fixes, fantasies. But these are not cures. They're echoes of the real thing we lost, our connection to the current beneath reality. Because fatigue is not always physical. Sometimes it's spiritual malnutrition. Sometimes it's your soul telling you, there is more to life than this. In the absence of alignment, we seek control. In the absence of connection, we seek distraction. But deep down, we remember there was a time when we felt more alive, more present, more whole. You're not tired because life is too much. You're tired because you're living without the energetic support system you were born with. The ancients didn't live this way. They aligned their rituals with the sun and moon. They breathed with the seasons. They sang to the wind. They didn't treat stillness as optional. They treated it as sacred. And somewhere in your DNA, you remember this too. You are not just tired, you are being called back to the field, back to breath, back to silence. You don't need more input, you need resonance. The zero-point field isn't an idea. It's the difference between living from friction and living from flow. When you're plugged in, even mundane moments feel alive. When you're disconnected, even success feels hollow. So don't ignore your fatigue. It's not weakness. It's the whisper of the field, reminding you that you were never meant to carry this much alone. The reconnection begins not with doing more, but with remembering what you're connected to. Your body is not a machine. It is not a burden. It is not a passive shell for consciousness. Your body is a living instrument, a tuning device built to receive, amplify, and radiate the energy of the field. Every breath you take is more than oxygen. It is signal. Every emotion you feel is more than a chemical reaction. It is vibration. Every posture, every movement, every pause is a way of shaping the frequency you emit. This is why ancient traditions never separated the body from the sacred. The yogis saw the body as a temple, with chakras acting as energy gateways. The Taoists mapped meridians, rivers of qi flowing through the organs and spine. The Sufis spun, the shamans drummed, the mystics fasted, not to punish the body, but to attune it to higher frequencies. Modern science is finally catching up. Neuroscience now shows that your nervous system is the control panel of your vibrational state. Your vagus nerve, sometimes called the soul nerve, links breath, heart, gut, voice, and brain in a feedback loop of frequency. When your vagus nerve is activated through deep breathing, humming, singing, or slow movement, your body enters coherence. That's not a buzzword. It's a measurable state where your brain waves, heart rhythm, and emotions align, and the field responds accordingly. Because the clearer your internal signal, the clearer the field mirrors it back. Have you ever walked into a room and felt the energy shift before anyone spoke? That's not imagination. That's vibrational transmission. Your field speaks before your words do. This is why you can't fake alignment. You can't affirm your way around internal chaos. The field doesn't respond to your surface thoughts. It responds to the total signal you're radiating. Breath, emotion, presence, coherence. So how do you tune? You start by slowing down. Breathe through your nose. Let your belly rise. Exhale longer than you inhale. Feel your feet. Feel your spine. Drop awareness from your mind into your heart, not metaphorically, but physically. Then, listen. Not for noise, but for the subtle hum beneath your body. The stillness that holds your structure, that's the field. It's not out there. It's here, in your fascia, your heartbeat, your cellular space. The more often you return to this state, the more naturally your body becomes a channel, not a cage. The more clearly you receive guidance, the more effortlessly synchronicities unfold. You don't need to escape your body to be spiritual. You need to embody your signal with reverence, precision, and awareness. Because the field is not activated by thought, it's activated by presence, and presence lives in the body. In a world addicted to complexity, it's easy to forget that the most powerful technologies are often the most ancient and the most simple. You don't need rituals soaked in mysticism or futuristic machines to access the field. What you truly need is already within you. Breath, silence, intention. These three aren't luxuries. They are the original access codes to the zero-point field, and we've forgotten how to use them. Most people breathe just enough to survive. Short, shallow, mechanical. But every breath is a broadcast. When you inhale slowly through your nose and let the breath fill your belly, not just your chest, you're doing more than oxygenating your body. You're sending a vibrational signal through your nervous system and directly into the field. That's why yogis practice pranayama, why Taoist monks cultivated breath like an art, why Sufi mystics use breath to spiral into transcendence. The ancients knew what modern science is only beginning to prove. Your breath is not just air, it is frequency in motion. It's the first tuning fork, the first reminder, the first place you begin to come home. But breath without silence is only half the key. Silence is where the energy organizes, where the field begins to reflect, where chaos untangles. Yet in our time, silence has become taboo. We fear the pause, so we drown it in noise. But silence is not absence. It is concentrated presence. It is the place where the field speaks clearest, not through words, but through a felt shift. When you stop filling the moment begins to fill you. Sit in that space, not for answers, but for alignment. You'll start to notice the hum beneath thought, the gentle pull back to center, the clarity that was never gone, just buried under stimulation. And then there's intention, not shallow goals, not affirmations without feeling, but the kind of intention that arises when the breath is steady and the silence is true. Real intention doesn't beg the universe. It doesn't plead. It simply aligns. It states clearly, calmly, what it's ready to hold. The ancients knew this too. In the Vedic fire rituals, they would place a single intention into the flame, not for show, but for vibrational imprinting. In Kabbalah, they use the word kavana, meaning heart-centered, spiritually attuned focus. In every true spiritual tradition, intention was never about convincing the universe. It was about becoming vibrationally congruent with what you wish to receive. So sit, breathe. Let silence gather around you like a cloak. Then speak softly into the air, not from need, but from clarity. Let me align with what serves. Or, I am ready to remember the truth of who I am, and mean it. Let the feeling move through you, not as pressure, but as presence. When breath, silence, and intention converge, the field doesn't need to be summoned. It is already here, waiting, listening, ready. The field never forgets, not because it's watching you, but because it is you. It mirrors not only your breath, your posture, your clarity, but your deepest vibrations. And nothing vibrates more powerfully than your unfelt emotions. Every time you silenced your grief, every time you pushed away your anger, every time you smiled through shame, the field recorded it. Not to punish you, not to trap you, but to keep that frequency active so that one day you'd have the strength to return and feel it all the way through. We've been taught to suppress, to stay positive, to keep moving, but energy doesn't vanish. It stores, and most of it gets stored not in memory, but in frequency, in the body, in the nervous system, in the personal field around you. Trauma that's never spoken becomes tension in your jaw. Guilt that's never acknowledged settles in your chest. Resentment becomes a fog over your heart. The mind might forget, but the field never does. And this is not a curse. It's a doorway. Because until you feel what you've never allowed yourself to feel, the field cannot fully flow through you. You will continue attracting from distortion, leaking from old wounds, reacting from old patterns. Not because you are broken, but because part of your signal is still trapped in yesterday's grief. To realign with the 0-point field, you don't need to erase your pain. You need to liberate it. You need to feel it honestly, with presence, not pity. You need to sit in silence, breathe into the ache, and say to yourself with clarity, I am safe to feel this now. Because feeling is how the field moves emotion out of contraction and back into coherence. When you bring awareness to your sadness, without judgment, it begins to soften. When you sit with your anger, without acting on it, it begins to reveal what it was protecting. When you welcome your shame with compassion, it begins to transmute into truth. This is what true spiritual alchemy looks like. Not denying the dark, but feeling it until it becomes light. The field doesn't demand purity. It responds to authenticity. The more truthful you are with yourself, the cleaner your signal becomes. And the cleaner your signal, the more the field organizes itself around you. This is why the great mystics wept, why Sufis trembled, why monks sat through discomfort with no escape. They weren't performing. They were clearing density, returning emotion to vibration. They understood that the soul doesn't need fixing. It needs space to release what the ego refused to feel. So if you want to live in resonance, don't chase joy. Don't fake peace. Feel what's already here. Let it rise. Let it move. Let it teach you where you abandoned yourself and how you can come home. The field isn't waiting for perfection. It's waiting for truth. And the moment you feel honestly, even if it's messy, even if it's raw, you become transparent again. You become light enough to carry energy. You become the open instrument the field was always trying to play. There is a frequency that doesn't shake when the world moves. It doesn't swing with emotion. It doesn't collapse when challenged. It simply observes, feels, and responds from stillness. This frequency is neutrality, and it may be the most misunderstood power of all. Neutrality is not indifference. It's not a lack of care or the absence of passion. It's the presence of deep awareness without attachment. It is when your inner signal becomes so steady, so coherent, that no external wave can distort your vibration. You are no longer tossed by every thought, every opinion, every fear, every desire. You hold your frequency, not by resisting emotion, but by not fusing with it. This is what the masters knew. It's why Christ remained silent before the crowd, why the Buddha sat unmoved beneath the Bodhi tree, why the Stoics trained not to control the world, but to govern themselves. Because the one who can observe without reacting is the one who is free. The field loves neutrality, because neutrality is pure signal. It's unburdened by emotional distortion. It's not triggered by fear. It doesn't grasp at outcomes. It simply reflects truth, moment by moment, without preference or panic. In a world addicted to extremes, neutrality is mistaken for weakness. But in truth, it is the most stable vibrational state a human being can access. It is not the absence of feeling, it is the maturity to let feeling pass through without becoming it. This is what true emotional mastery looks like. Not suppression, not denial, but a still vast center, like a calm ocean that lets every wave rise and fall without losing itself. So how do you reach it? You begin by noticing your reactions without shame. When someone speaks and you feel triggered, don't run from it. Observe it, name it, feel where it contracts in the body, then pause, breathe. Remind yourself, this is not who I am. This is an energy passing through me. And in that moment, you reclaim sovereignty. You stop feeding the loop. You stop broadcasting the wound. You become the space around the emotion, not the emotion itself. Neutrality isn't cold, it's warm but steady. It's open but clear. It allows everything, but becomes nothing. The 0-point field responds to this with perfect clarity. When you reach neutrality, you collapse resistance. You become receptive, and the energy you've been pushing away, the insight, the breakthrough, the calm, finally has room to land. The Taoists called it Wu Wei, effortless action, not laziness, not avoidance, but movement without force, flow without friction, power without pressure. You don't need to control reality to shift it. You simply need to stop reacting to what is and respond from what's eternal within you. And that still point inside you, that non-reactive, aware, unshaken witness, that is the field remembering itself. Reality is not as solid as it seems. It doesn't unfold in straight lines. It emerges, moment to moment, from a field of infinite probabilities. And what determines which version of reality you experience is not luck, it's vibration. In quantum physics, this is known as wave function collapse. Before something becomes form, it exists as potential, a field of possibilities. But the moment it is observed, the wave collapses, it chooses, it materializes. The observer brings form into being, but not just any observer. An observer with coherence, an observer whose vibration matches the outcome. This is where visualization becomes sacred, not as make-believe, not as wishful thinking, but as a vibrational tuning mechanism where your inner frequency begins to resonate with the reality you are calling in. You are not manifesting with thoughts alone. You are manifesting through a felt signal, emotion fused with mental imagery. That signal is what the field reads. That signal is what tells reality. This is who I am now. So when you sit down to visualize, understand this. It's not the picture that creates, it's the feeling behind the picture. If you close your eyes and imagine abundance, but you feel fear in your chest, the field amplifies the fear, not the image. If you picture peace, but your body is tight with resistance, you are sending out mixed frequencies. That's why so many people say, I've visualized for years, but nothing changes. Because it's not about repetition, it's about resonance. To truly collapse a wave into form, you must become the vibration of the outcome. Now, you must feel it as already real, already here, already alive inside you. Start simply. Close your eyes. See yourself in the state you desire, not as a future dream, but as a present truth. Feel how that version of you breathes, how they walk, how they look at the world. Now breathe into that. Let that image merge with your nervous system. Let it become normal. Because once the field recognizes your frequency as coherent, it begins to reorganize reality around it. This is why intention without embodiment doesn't work. The field doesn't respond to effort. It responds to truth and vibration. Neville Goddard taught this long ago. Assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled, not pretend. Assume, become. When feeling, breath, belief, and imagery align, you are no longer trying to create something. You are becoming the version of you for whom it already exists. And the field, obedient, infinite, impersonal, mirrors it back. This is not magic. This is physics at the level of soul. You're not here to chase reality. You're here to choose your frequency. and let reality follow. The more sensitive you become to energy, the more sacred your frequency becomes. And the more sacred your frequency becomes, the more important it is to protect it, not out of fear, but out of reverence. Your field is not a wall, it's not a shield of glass. It's a living membrane, porous, responsive, intelligent. And just like your skin protects your body from toxins, your energetic field needs care, hygiene, and boundaries. Because everything is vibration. And not every vibration belongs inside you. You've felt this before. You walk into a room and your mood changes. You talk to someone and feel drained, even if they said nothing wrong. You spend time online scrolling endlessly, and suddenly you're scattered, irritable, ungrounded. This isn't weakness. This is your signal being co-opted by noise. We are exposed to more information in a day than some ancestors were in a lifetime. That information carries frequency. It enters through your eyes, your ears, your emotions. And without daily energetic hygiene, it stays, it distorts, it weighs you down. So you must learn to protect your field, not through paranoia, but through presence. It begins with awareness. Start noticing who drains you, what environments tighten your body, what conversations leave you foggy, confused, off. This is data, vibrational data, and awareness is your first filter. Then comes cleansing. Water is a transmitter, a purifier, a healer. Bathe or shower with presence. Imagine the static rinsing away. Use salt, use breath, use sound. Smudge with herbs if your tradition calls for it. But more than anything, clear your field with attention, because the field responds to intention plus awareness, not superstition. Set boundaries, energetic and emotional. You don't owe your presence to everyone. Not every message needs a reply. Not every invitation deserves your yes. Let your no be a sacred act of field maintenance. And each morning, before the world enters you, seal your space, close your eyes, breathe, and say softly, only what aligns with truth and peace may enter this field. It's not a spell, it's a resonance reset. Because when your energy is clear, your path is clear. When your field is sovereign, your choices become effortless. You no longer waste energy filtering noise. You walk clean, you walk light, and the world, which is filled with signals and stories and seductions, can no longer pull you out of your core. You stop reacting, you start radiating. The field loves clarity. It loves precision. When your signal is stable, the field reflects stability back. So treat your energy like fire, like breath, like life itself. Not everyone gets access. Only what serves your highest alignment should ever be allowed in. The field is not only available in meditation, it is not reserved for silence or temples or mountaintops. The field is present in your coffee cup, in your footsteps across the floor, in your breath as you stand in line. It's not accessed through escaping the world, but through entering it differently. This is the forgotten truth of spiritual mastery. It's not about what you do once a day in stillness. It's about how you move through every hour that follows. We've been trained to compartmentalize, to separate spiritual moments from real life. But in truth, there is no divide. Every act, when performed with presence, becomes a ritual. Every breath becomes a prayer. When you drink water slowly, gratefully, you are not just hydrating. You are receiving life with reverence. When you walk without rushing, with awareness of your body and breath, you are not just going somewhere. You are vibrating with the earth's rhythm. When you speak with clarity and compassion, you are not just expressing thoughts. You are broadcasting frequency into the field. This is sacred living, not as a performance, but as a way of being. You're not trying to be spiritual. You're simply living as someone who remembers that everything carries energy. And when that remembrance enters your habits, your rituals, your posture, your entire field becomes tuned. The ancients didn't need affirmations taped to mirrors. They had rhythm. They had reverence. They made fire with care. They washed with intention. They sang to the stars. not because they were primitive, but because they understood something we've forgotten. Divinity lives in the details. Every act, no matter how mundane, carries vibration. Every gesture sends out a signal. The question is, are you broadcasting from alignment or from unconscious repetition? When you begin to treat your daily life as the temple, everything changes. You become less reactive, more rooted. You make better decisions, not through strategy, but through subtle guidance. You begin to hear the field in real time. This is what the mystics meant when they said, God walks with the one who walks in awareness. You don't have to change your life. You have to enter it fully, with presence, with breath, with intention. This is where spirituality matures. This is where energy becomes embodiment. So tomorrow morning, don't just wake up, arrive. Don't just eat, receive. Don't just move, align. Let the way you do everything, speak, walk, touch, look, listen, become an offering. The field is always here, but it's only ever felt by those who remember. Now is the altar. This moment is the ceremony. You do not live in a vacuum. You are not separate. You are not isolated in your seeking. Every breath you take, every emotion you allow, every thought you release, ripples into the collective field. This is not metaphor. This is physics and sacred responsibility. We are not just bodies walking beside each other. We are fields, pulsing, overlapping, resonating. You affect the people near you not just by what you say, but by what you carry in your energy, and they affect you too. This is what modern science is beginning to confirm. HeartMath research shows that the human heart emits an electromagnetic field detectable up to several feet away, and that a coherent heart state in one person can influence the nervous system of those nearby. Rupert Sheldrake's morphic resonance theory suggests that every thought, every action, every frequency leaves an imprint on the collective mind, a vibrational echo that others unconsciously tune into. The mystics already knew this. It's why monks don't meditate just for themselves. It's why indigenous tribes hold ceremony for the earth, not just their own healing. It's why the great saints prayed not just to find peace, but to become a lighthouse for all beings. Because once your field becomes clear, it begins to clear the space around you. You've felt this before. You've walked into a room where someone is fully present, calm, unshaken, kind, and without a word, your nervous system begins to settle. That is vibrational transfer. That is the power of coherence. In the same way that one anxious person can pollute a group's energy, one grounded being can elevate it. You don't need to change the world by force. You need to stabilize your frequency so that others remember theirs. Because coherence spreads, peace spreads, presence spreads, not by preaching, but by transmitting. And in this age of chaos, confusion, and constant noise, the most radical thing you can do is stay centered, stay regulated, stay open and awake, not to escape the world, but to anchor light inside it. This is the next level of spiritual maturity, when your practice stops being about how you feel and starts becoming about how you serve the invisible web of humanity. So the next time you sit in silence, remember, you're not just tuning your own field, you're tuning the collective. The field is not passive, it's interactive. And every ounce of truth you embody, every drop of love you allow, every act of alignment you choose, becomes a signal others can feel, even if they don't know why. You're not just healing yourself. You're becoming a frequency the world forgot it needed. You're not just remembering the field. You're reweaving it. With every breath, every heartbeat, every presence-filled step you take. You were never disconnected, not truly. You were only distracted, pulled into a world that taught you to search outside for what was always within. You looked for energy. You looked for truth. You looked for peace. But what if you were never meant to find those things? What if you were meant to remember that you are made of them? The field is not a place. It is not out there, beyond reach. It is the stillness beneath your thoughts, the quiet presence beneath your name, the frequency behind your heartbeat. The 0-point field isn't something you tap into like a power source. It is your true nature, waiting for you to pause long enough to feel it again. This is the great reversal of the spiritual path. You spend years reaching, climbing, praying, learning, only to come full circle and discover you are the very thing you've been searching for. This is why the Upanishads said, Tattavamasi, you are that. Why Christ said, the kingdom of God is within you. Why mystics across every tradition eventually fell silent, because there were no more words to explain what they had become. You are not a spark from the field. You are the field, folded into human form. You are not a wave floating on the ocean. You are the ocean, temporarily experiencing itself as a wave. And the moment you stop identifying with the surface, your story, your wounds, your timeline, you begin to feel it again. You begin to remember what you felt before language, before separation, before fear. A stillness so complete it cannot be broken. An awareness so vast it holds both joy and grief without dividing them. A presence so alive it doesn't need a single word to prove itself. This is who you are. This is what the field has always tried to whisper through every synchronicity, every breath, every moment of awe. Not believe in me, but return to yourself, because this journey was never about gaining more knowledge. It was about shedding the noise that made you forget. You are not a receiver of energy. You are a generator of it, a mirror of source, a pulse of the divine. And the more you embody that truth, not just in thought, but in posture, in silence, in how you show up to the smallest things, the more the field bends around your frequency. You don't need to do anything to earn this. You simply need to recognize you are it. You've always been it. And now, you remember. This is not the end. This is the return to the place where endings no longer exist. Because once you've remembered the field, you can't go back. You can still forget, temporarily. You can still get pulled into noise, fear, comparison. But somewhere deeper inside, something has changed. You no longer believe the illusion of separation. You know what you are now. And once you know, even silence feels different. Even walking becomes sacred. Even stillness feels like motion. Because now you're moving as the field itself. You are not here to perform divinity. You are here to embody vibration. You don't need to convince the world of anything. You don't need to prove your awakening or package your peace. The field doesn't shout. It radiates. When you walk as the field, people feel you before they hear you. Your calm speaks louder than words. Your coherence becomes a mirror, showing others what is possible inside themselves. You become a presence, not just a person, a tuning fork, not a performer, a still point in a chaotic world. This is what the ancient ones meant by walking in grace, not moving perfectly, but moving from presence, letting each gesture carry awareness, letting each interaction be a transmission, letting your life become the sermon you never need to speak. And when you forget, as all of us do, you know how to return. You return through the breath, through silence, through intention, through the remembrance that the field is not a destination. It's your natural state beneath the noise. You can live in cities and still carry this peace. You can sit in traffic and still hold this frequency. You can face conflict and still respond from the still point within you. This is mastery, not because it's perfect, but because it's anchored. The world doesn't need more teachers. It needs more transmitters. People who walk as light, not to escape the dark, but to transmute it. You are not here to chase alignment. You are here to be it, to feel your way breath by breath, to trust that the field is not just with you, it moves as you. So go now. Live gently but firmly. Walk slowly but with purpose. Speak rarely but with depth. Let your presence be enough. Because the greatest truth has already landed. You don't have to tap into the field anymore. You are the field, and the moment you live like that, life itself begins to rise up and meet you at the exact frequency you've always carried beneath the noise, beneath the fear, beneath the forgetting. This is the real beginning, and you are finally awake.